everyone. All right.
Just a reminder, I will
Chime in at 9:15 because you have a witness who is very limited on time. Okay.
Perfect.
If you're, yeah, okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, February 25th, 9:01 a.m. This is the morning meeting of the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee. We have a busy day today in front of us to bring a number of bills to a vote that we've been working on for a period of time. So with no further ado, I think we did a final round of edits yesterday as a group with all interested parties on S148. Ms. Chakowski, if you could take us through just the changes to S148 since yesterday, please. And then I would, assuming that we have no remaining questions, would look to someone from the committee to offer a motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Senator McDonald.
Just for those listening in, when we refer to bills by number, could you kindly just say
I
which
think
one it
we
is?
might be moving a
Such
little
as
too
social
fast,
justice
Mr.
bill?
Chair.
All right. Well,
Let's go
yeah,
back and
this is what happens when you start very early. So the first bill up is S148, an act relating to environmental justice.
Thank
We
you.
have a clean draft with highlights of the last round of edits based on yesterday's meeting, and just want to review those with the committee and any interested parties. So we do have the folks who have been working with us all along in the room to put their eyes on the final edits.
And Mr. Chair, may I ask a quick question?
Yeah, please.
Do we have a fiscal note on this?
We do.
Okay, great.
We do have a fiscal note, and we have revised again,
thought
actually,
wanted-
the budget, the funding section, appropriations.
thank you.
section. Yep. Okay, with that, Ms. Chakowski, if you can give us a tour of the most recent round of changes, please.
Sure. Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. Today on your website, draft 5.1 of S148 is posted. This draft incorporates the minor edits that were suggested yesterday by the Agency of Natural Resources, as well as it went to the editors. So hopefully most of the typos have been fixed. So first, small change on page 11. The Agency of Natural Resources shall review the definition of environmental justice population at least every 5 years. Then throughout the bill, the phrase agencies, departments, and bodies listed in subsection B has been added throughout to make sure that it's clear that that the requirements when that language is used apply to all of the state entities listed in subsection B. So it's there on page 11 as well as on page 12 and 13. And then, all right, some small changes on page 16. So this is the section on the two advisory bodies, so the Advisory Council and the Interagency Committee. They shall jointly consider and recommend to the General Assembly on or before December 1st, 2023, amendments to the terminology, thresholds, and criteria of the definition of environmental justice populations, including whether to include populations more likely to be at higher risk for poor health outcomes in response to environmental burdens. So some clarifying language here, and also an extension of the amount of time they have to make this, to do this. I think it was, I'm sorry, I can't find what the prior date was, but the agency asked that it be pushed back out.
I think it was an out of session date, and I think the conversations I remember it was if it's going to be a report to the General Assembly, why not provide the extra time to develop the report and deliver it to us shortly before the session rather than in, I think, July or August, something like that.
Yes, I apologize. It was previously July 1, 2023. Okay. And then, all right. Page 22 of draft 5 has a small change. As the agency mentioned yesterday, there are more than one federal environmental justice mapping tools. So the language here reflects that they may incorporate the plural mapping tools such as EJ Screen. And then finally, a small amendment that was actually proposed by JFO. JFO did raise concerns that this appropriation section is not nearly as detailed as it would need to be implemented. I do agree. I think this is what the Appropriations Committee is going to work on. But they did want to make sure it was directly stated that there will need to be the per diem payments made from the appropriation for this bill. So there will need to be per diem payments allocated for the two councils that you've established.
Great. Thank you very much. And that's the last edit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I'd like to turn to interested parties, and we have Ms. Stevens here on behalf of ANR. Good morning. I don't know if you have any comments or questions on the last round of revisions, or if there's anything a point that you want to raise at this point, or we've successfully interpreted the last conversations and revised the bill.
Yep, for the record, this is Rachel Stevens from the Agency of Natural Resources. We don't have any comments at this time. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And Ms. Mahali is remote and joining us. Thank you very much. You're an early bird, so I wanted to check in and see if you have any comments, questions about the current draft in front of us, draft 5.1 that we just finished reviewing.
Thank you, Chair Bray. Yes, from the dark skies of California, I am so grateful for all the work that this committee put into getting to where we are now, and really supportive of you all voting on this bill today.
Okay. Well, thank you. Glad to hear we may have made it to the finish line. So with that, are there any committee comments or questions for council? Okay, hearing, seeing none, Chair would welcome a motion to amend the S-148 with the strike all amendment before us now, draft 5.1.
So moved.
Thank you, Senator McCormick. I think on this we can, we'll need to have Senator Westman visible if he's to vote with us. Good morning, Senator Westman. So I would ask for all those in favor of amending S-148 with draft 5.1 of the strike all that we just reviewed, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Okay, hearing no nays, I'm going to conclude, unless someone corrects me, that that's a 5-0-0 vote to amend. And then I would welcome a motion from someone on the committee to move the bill as so amended.
So moved.
We'll go ahead. All right, and with that, I would ask any further discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Senator McCormick,
Yes.
Senator McDonald,
Yes.
Senator Westman,
Yes.
Senator Campion votes yes, and the chair, Senator Bray.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
that's a 5-0-0 vote. Is there any member of the committee that would like to report this bill? I would be happy to do it, but I don't always
I've got
want to.
a bunch of ed bills to report. So I would prefer to not, but if you're swamped, I could always do it.
This will be the first bill report of the session for me.
Okay.
Not feeling swamped. I just wanted to offer. Okay, so I'll be happy to report the bill. I want to thank everyone who's joined us on a sort of a marathon on this bill. We started, I think, the very first week, and we've been at it off and on ever since. Been through many drafts, a lot of discussion, and I appreciate people's bringing good thinking and good hearts to the project. I think we're in a better position than we were roughly 2 months ago. So thank you, everyone. Look forward to bringing this to the floor and sharing it with our colleagues and seeing the bill move forward. And again, I particularly want to thank the Agency of Natural Resources and Ms. Mahaly and all the colleagues that she has been acting as point person for. It's been a respectful and productive dialogue in the very best way. So thank you for that. With that, we are going to change topics and bills, moving to S-234, an act relating to changes to Act 250. We have a new bill draft, and we also have Judge Zone joining us this morning. There was an open question in the bill in Section 17 around the utility or the potential utility of adding a temporary judge position to the Environmental Division of Superior Court. If it's to be ARPA funded, it needs to be based on COVID. And so we're happy to take broader testimony, but I think if I were to boil it down, knowing that Judge Zone has very limited time this morning, I would say the question from the committee is there a backlog in the Environmental Division of Superior Court that's been caused by COVID? And does the proposed addition of an additional judge and clerk, is that something that you would support and see a need for? And you can go broader than that, but I just wanted to get right to the point with you as well. Thank you.
Well, good morning, Tom Zone, Chief Superior Judge. My understanding is the answer to your two questions is no and no, and I'll explain in greater detail. I've spoken with Judge Durkin, the presiding judge, and he has indicated from his perspective that there is not a significant backlog in the environmental division. In fact, we do have, as we read in the papers and everyone's aware, we have significant backlogs in other divisions. That is not at this time, as I understand it, the same in the environmental division. The environmental division was since it's a statewide division. Prior to the pandemic, they were actually doing a lot of things remotely. And so they were able to transition and keep things moving in a manner that we could not keep in other dockets. And so my understanding is that while certainly extrajudicial help is always beneficial and we can move cases with that at this time, the environmental division, I could not say that they have a backlog such that we need an extra judge in there.
Okay.
As far as extra judges, absolutely. We could use extra judges, but permanent, fully funded judges going forward is what we would need to be able to respond in the other dockets. I could explain why, as a practical matter, a one-year position is just not something that would work on limited service, whether it's from the moment of notifying of the vacancy, the transitions and everything. We just had a vacancy for 3 positions posted last July, and the judges began their first day on the bench February. And so there's a significant delay with training, advertising, appointment process.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Our bailiwick is constrained. The nexus for us is environmental division. I wish we could be lobbying on your behalf for judges in the areas where you have dockets that are under pressure and backed up because of COVID. But we maybe in the cafeteria we can do that, but we won't be doing it in a bill.
We appreciate that. Any efforts you can give us in that regard will be greatly appreciated.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for your testimony. Any committee questions for Judge Zone?
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for, I know you had a tight schedule this morning. Thanks for slotting yourself right in, and happy to have the information directly from you.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a safe day, everyone. It's a pleasure.
Okay. Bye-bye. With that, I think that was a last sort of open question on one of the last open questions on S234. I have worked since our last committee discussion on a new draft with council. Ms. Chakowski, could you walk us through the most recent draft of S234? And because we didn't know what Judge Zone would be saying, I asked council to prepare two versions of our bill, one with the environmental division judge position in it, and one without. Having just heard from the judge that they don't need any such position and don't really think of it as particularly practicable, let's just go with the permission of my colleagues here on the committee to the version without the judge in it, unless that creates a problem. Creates a problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, okay, so Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel.
Let's walk through the default. We can make that adjustment later. Thank you.
Yes. So draft 3.1 is posted on your website today. It contains section 17. I can get you draft 4.1 imminently, but it's not on your website yet. So, but the new language that I drafted is in the new section 4. No, it's in the existing section 4 of your bill. So,
should I
Yes.
I can just orient the room and anyone listening to how we boiled down the nature of the requests. I think we heard as a committee that priority housing projects, it's an existing construct. It's already out there. It operates in a manner that once we learned more about it, we didn't think it particularly supportive of low and moderate income Vermonters. The longevity covenants had been cut in half over the recent years, and only 20% of units in a development actually even had to comply with those limited longevity requirements and affordability requirements. So the construct here is that if we are now bringing, and part of the pushback for asking for anything more was we weren't bringing money to the table. We were just giving relief on permitting and planning processes. So having heard that, the construct here says, okay, yes, you're getting relief on permitting and planning processes in the form of an Act 250 exemption, but now we are going to bring money to the table, and that money is ARPA money. And so the construct here is that when the primary source of funding is ARPA money, then we ask for terms in the priority housing projects that are more supportive of low and moderate income Vermonters. So that's the theme of the changes. And then I'll pause there and we can go back to council and hear about how is that actually implemented.
Right. So in response to that request, I added this new language to section 6001 of Act 250 in the exemption section. So the word development does not include and therefore doesn't require a permit. Notwithstanding any other provision of this chapter to the contrary, the construction of a primary housing project, a priority housing project funded primarily by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2000, 21, only if the mixed income housing project to be constructed contains at least 80% of the housing units with a durability of affordability of not less than 30 years.
So there it is in a nutshell. Any questions, or we could? All right, so let's keep going. Senator McDonald.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
this first time I've seen a number like this in a bill. I think we should make it very clear that we think that the current allocations are inadequate and do not reflect what could be done in this year, given the amount of money available. That's a pretty strong number, 80%. There might be several different tiers that someone more familiar with housing than us might craft. I would like to encourage them to craft such a thing. Is this bill going somewhere else where the housing people can take a look at it and modify this language if we pass it out today?
Yes. So this is, if we're like, I would say this is like an opening position. Obviously, we're leaning into it pretty hard with inverting the ratios. 20/80 becomes 80/20. We go back to the 30-year covenant instead of 15. Is that workable? We will work with our other colleagues to find out.
This isn't language I would have drafted and suggested. This is the last day of the week. I think we got to move the bill along, and with assurance that folks that would understand the technical opportunities better than we do in this, I'll go along with it. But this is, I don't want people to interpret it as you do this or else. It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
You do it this way or else. Yeah.
Right. And for just to remind the committee, we're all aware of it. Others watching may not be. Our committee has been in daily discussions with Economic Development, General Affairs, and Housing Committee about this issue. And so the expectation is that my goal is that for us and this bill is that we vote it out today. It will take days before it would ever be coming to the floor, and it affords an opportunity for other committees to participate in further discussions and possible amendments. So, Senator McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's unfortunate that we've just declared publicly that we're willing to negotiate down from these numbers, but now that the cat's out of the bag, I could see perhaps the necessity of negotiating down from the 80% to 75% or something. But I would be reluctant to yield 1 minute off the 30 years. I mean, we're using taxpayer money to subsidize development because we want to provide. Well, Senator McDonald has articulated the argument. I can't improve on his phrasing. Then if we come down from 30 years, we're not really providing affordable housing. We're providing a temporary respite and not really addressing the issue for many, many families. So I would hope that we would hang tough on the 30 years.
Okay. Well, and I'm being open and transparent. I would like to see it move forward in the strongest possible form. Maybe someone has higher numbers than what we have. Who knows? But just wanted to acknowledge that we're not the only. Of course, we're not the only ones with
Right.
a stake in the discussion, and we will, as always, be negotiating with colleagues in order to craft the best possible bill we can move. So I appreciate both of you weighing in. So Okay, Senator Westman?
I just say, my only question in that remains what's affordable. And I think we've talked in this committee quite extensively about low and moderate income and the forgotten middle. And
Yes.
my only question would be, would we define a little bit more what affordable is?
That's a perfect segue to going back to council, because there are cross references to the how we determine what qualifies for priority housing project. So anyway, if we could continue the walkthrough, then let's do that.
Okay. The only other change in this bill does not have anything to do with housing. So, okay. On page 14, this is on page 14. This is part of the criterion 8C rulemaking section. So the chair asked me to adjust the dates for the rulemaking. So you're adding a new criterion 8C to Act 250 in this bill to address forest blocks and connecting habitat, as well as incorporating rare and irreplaceable natural areas. There's a rulemaking that directs the NRB to work with A&R on the specifics of how on adopting a rule for this new criterion. So the dates have been pushed back in this draft. So the board shall convene a working group to provide input to the rule prior to pre-filing with ICAR. The board shall convene the working group on or before June 1, 2023. So that's pushing it out. Also, the board shall file the final proposed rule with LCAR on or before June 15, 2024. So in the prior draft, the working group was supposed to convene by February of 2023 and then final rule by June of 2023. But this is giving an extension for that and pushing out the new rule to 2 years from now.
So I think it would be helpful to also double back and go through section 4, just to remind people of what what this construct is that's novel. The ARPA funded provisions.
So you want to talk about housing? Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay, so we're modifying, let me just double check. We're modifying what a priority housing project is, that it's ARPA funded. And
so section 4 is an amendment to the definition section of Act 250. It has a couple different amendments already in it, in addition to the new language that's there today. So first in section 4 is first you're removing the lowest cap on the number of priority housing projects. So the minimum number of priority housing projects that are exempt is up to 50 units of housing in a town with less than 6,000 people. So you're removing the 25 or less cap. You're also, there's also a language that's updating the flood hazard and river corridor language of Act 250. And then there's also this technical correction to the definition of mixed income housing to reflect the formula that VHFA uses. Is this what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm just want to make sure I've printed out multiple copies and want to make sure that I'm on the exact same draft. What is the draft number for?
This is 3.1.
Okay,
I don't know if you would have it since I only finished it this morning.
no, so the one on our website was, or that came out was the earlier version. So that was all. I just wanted to make sure I have the right draft number.
Right, and so you haven't changed this draft, you haven't changed this amendment to the definition of mixed income housing at all. It's the same as what was recommended by VHFA.
Right. So so thank you for coming to this. So to Senator Westman's point, that's really what I was trying to get back around to. We talked about changing the definition of affordability. At one point saying, for instance, to push that number as high as 150% of AMI. And I think that's where I'd say personally, I'd say we didn't find support from the housing community to do that because it didn't work with the way they do. I would say the way the ways they fund projects. And so that conversation about the missing middle has now been separated out into a separate tranche of money that I think probably on appropriations you're looking at currently. I don't know if you've seen that allocation or not. Senator Sirotkin has talked about a special tranche of money that goes exactly to that, so that it would be we wouldn't be accommodating it in this bill. That would be complementary to this bill. Money for people looking for housing with an AMI, and their AMI is, their income is greater than 80% of area median income, which we've been told repeatedly is sort of a hard stop for funding of affordable units through priority housing projects. So I think we all wanted to go higher than 80%. And what I've learned, and this bill reflects, that these programs, practically speaking, go to 80% AMI. And we need a complementary program, which is currently under discussion in economic development and with the administration, to address that so-called missing middle. So I just wanted to be clear that we don't solve the missing middle issue in this bill. That's what I'm trying to get to.
I would just say, I know that their rules and the system that is created doesn't easily work for that, what we're referring to as the missing middle.
Right.
There was language and there was a proposal that was in the budget adjustment from the administration, and I think it was $5 million, and we took it out because I think the feeling was, and I'm going to use these terms, that their proposal helped very few people and wasn't really ready to go. And I haven't seen anything else come. If this is a stake in the ground for us to say, we're looking for a movement in this direction, what this doesn't do is totally reflect, I think, what the conversations have been in our committee.
Right.
And just as I heard Senator McDonald talk about we needed a bill needed to move and needed to move along, and the language isn't exactly where he would have wanted to be, but it needs to move along. I totally understand that, but what is in here doesn't totally reflect, in my view, what the committee has talked about, because we have talked a lot about how the market forces have driven up the price of houses beyond what a working family in Vermont can now afford.
Right.
And so I'm a little disappointed that we can't find language, but I don't think there is perfect language to put in.
Okay. Well, so I think, as we were saying, knowing that there will be additional work on the bill, it's not that unusual for a committee to report a bill and bring an amendment to the floor based on work done after the bill has actually been voted out of committee. So in order to keep pace with the fact that crossover is coming, that I would welcome the chance to work with you and anyone else, maybe over our town meeting week, and look at ways that we might craft an amendment that could address the missing middle concern better, because I shared the same interest, and also anything that any other member, including Senator McDonald, who started us off on, how might we do better than what we're proposing in this bill, which is at the moment in this form of this bill. So I appreciate people's flexibility, and I'm happy to work with anyone interested in the next. Happily, we have this little break. We have 10 days that we can do some background work and be better prepared for when we come back on the 8th. So, Senator McDonald.
I thank Senator Westman for speaking to this. He said it more artfully than I would have. I'm not worried about this language moving forward. I trust that it will be taken in the spirit in which it's offered. Perhaps if we had more time, we would have crafted this language a little better, but I'm not worried about it. And I figure that the committees that get this bill will treat it in the spirit that we've sent it to them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So thanks for that, Mr. Chakowski. I just wanted to get back to this section around how pricing is determined and our connection to the VHFA funding mechanism in 29B. All right. Are there any other changes for you to show us on this draft other than what we've already seen?
Yeah, there's a change in the effective date. Did you want me to talk about the rulemaking language again, or I know you were shuffling papers, but are you?
Yeah, sure. We add a little time on the timeline, and actually, there's been a discussion amongst different parties. One of the people who has, I think, helped organize that discussion is Mr. Coleman, who is just really here to answer questions. Mr. Coleman, maybe you come on for a minute or two and explain what you and
Senator,
others
do you mind if I
received.
just show the effective date change first, and then we could?
Yeah, please.
Because this ties into the effective date. So because you're pushing out the rule, I just had to change the effective date also.
Okay.
So the effective date for criterion 8C is now after the rule goes into effect. And so that'll be September 1st, 2024. So I think it would just finish that conversation from Ledge County.
Thank you. It's always good to take counsel from counsel. Keep us on track. So Mr. Coleman, if you could just fill people in a little bit on what the date, what was motivating the reconsideration of the timeline and dates.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. This is Warren Coleman. I'm here on behalf of the Vermont Ski Areas Association this morning. And when we were looking at the bill late last week, we were trying to look at the timing of some of these pieces. And the original dates had ANR and NRB convening a working group in February of 23 to talk about the development, obviously the pre sort of ICAR filing of the development of the rule. And as you know, there's a lot we've left to the rulemaking process here for talking about forest blocks and connecting habitat. This is an important issue. So it had a February date at 23 for convening this group, and then it had a final rule filing in June. And as we all know, those dates don't line up. There's no way to convene a meaningful stakeholder process in February and have an agency file a final rule 4 months later. So what we did was I've adjusted the dates to make sure that there's a meaningful stakeholder engagement prior to the filing of the rule, and then give the agency adequate time to do that rule filing. The other reason that first date for the stakeholder meeting starting, or the working group is now in June of 23, is that the Agency of Natural Resources is in the process of updating their biofinder maps, and those maps show forest cover and forest blocks. Currently, their maps are at a resolution of like 30 meter pixels, and the new maps are going to be at half a meter. So much finer resolution. And what that's going to have the effect of, I think, having all stakeholders have better information to go into the process of discussing forest blocks and where they are and how big they are. Right now, the resolution is very coarse. And when you look at the maps, they cover areas that are clearly not going to be part of forest blocks. And from the ski areas perspective, they cover existing ski areas and base lodges. And and we all recognize that it's not a jurisdictional tool at this point, but we all thought it made sense to have the best information to sit down and have those discussions. And in fact, I think it will alleviate concerns of landowners, really, I think everybody, when the maps are updated. So agencies supposed to have those maps updated in the middle of 23. So those are the reasons for making those adjustments in the dates.
And thank you, Mr. Coleman. Any questions for Mr. Coleman on the reorganizing a little bit of the timeline to provide for that opportunity for better maps? Okay.
It's a little confusing, but I think it's okay.
Okay. Well, if you would like to ask for more clarification, that's fine. I also should report out that I shared, Mr. Coleman, I asked Mr. Coleman to share the language with ANR, and
Okay.
And they have reviewed it, and
they're good.
They're good with
Okay.
change to dates.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I should represent that I have been in touch with John Groveman at VNRC, and he agrees with the issue of making sure there's a meaningful time for the stakeholder process before final adoption of the rule. I think he's a little concerned about pushing the working group date back to June and waiting for the maps. So we may have a discussion about whether we can engage in that process earlier, and may fine tune that going forward. But so I've made that commitment that if we can, this doesn't have to be the end of the discussion.
Okay.
Going forward.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Well, let me just.
One other thing I should just flag for Ellen, I noticed, I think maybe because some of the sections have changed, it looks like in this sequence that you should just double check the sections. It looks like there's a section missing somewhere in the 7, 8, 9 sequence. And in the effective date, I think it should be referring back to section 7, maybe not 8, but you just might want to double check. It looks like there's a section in the main part of the bill that might have been omitted and just not renumbered.
Well, luckily the chair has requested a new draft. So I will fix that.
Cool.
Thank you. So thanks for the extra eyes, and I appreciate just to review for committee discussion, right? We can check on any kind of numbering and cross-reference that needs to happen if there's a numbering issue. But I just wanted to reaffirm with the committee that based on the judge's testimony, we were reviewing what was section 17 that proposed a temporary environmental division judge. And that the next draft, that'll be the principal change for that draft. Okay. So I think let me ask if people are comfortable doing this. A clean voting draft for turning in, I think is not going to vary from what we have in front of us. And I'm wondering if people are comfortable voting on draft 3.1 that we just went through, knowing that there could be like a scrivener's change to section numbering. And we also we're removing a section. Either that, or we could try to reconvene late in the day with that clean copy. And
you can have it now.
we can have it now.
I
Okay.
just did it while Warren was talking.
Thank you.
Okay. So then what will our draft number be for the version? I'm going to write this down.
It's 4.1.
4.1. Okay. So with that, I'd look for a motion to amend S234 with draft 4.1, our strike all amendment. Any
So moved.
takers? Thank you, Senator McDonald. So for the amendment, any further discussion about making that amendment? All right. All those supporting amending S234 with amendment version 4.1, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. So 500 to amend. Now I'll be looking for a motion to vote out S234 as so amended.
So moved.
So moved. Okay, thank you.
Just one quick question, if I may.
Yes, please.
It's unrelated to this. Could this all be done in one motion?
I don't think I've.
To move draft, whatever it is, 3.1. I don't know. I was just something, yeah. Technical question. It's
well,
I looked at
the bill-
Senator McCormick and Senator McDonald on these technical parliamentary things, but don't want to hold us up for this issue right now. So
I've never heard it done.
We have.
Motion, but
I think we used to in this committee for the past. What's that? Right, you can vote.
No,
Yeah.
with the draft before us, and now we have the bill
I
as
see.
it's been altered to whether or not we should report it to the floor favorably.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll send you another copy of the clerk's handbook. You'll find it spelled out on page 2. With that, so the motion is to report favorably bill S234 as so amended, which was draft 4.1 was what we just voted. So with that, is there any further discussion? Okay, so would I ask the clerk to call the roll, please?
Senator McCormick,
Yes.
Senator McDonald,
Yes.
Senator Westman, Senator Westman.
No.
Senator Campion votes yes. Senator Bray.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Senator Bray, I didn't hear what you are a,
Yes,
okay, so, okay. First I thought you had said no, so it is 4-1-0. Would have struck me as a little odd, so.
yeah, no.
But I know you're not great on those ayes and nays.
Yay, nay, yeah, a little twisted there. Okay, so the vote is 4-1-0. Is there anyone who'd like to be the reporter of this bill? I'm happy to do it if no one wants that particular task, but I always like to offer.
It sounds like my afternoon committee. I say, I'm happy to do it, but does anybody else want to do it?
Exactly. All right, so I'll report the bill. All right, so thank you, committee. Knowing that there is still work to do, again, I'll reach out to committee members about possible additional work to address basically the biggest gap I think that we've all identified and are not really satisfied with at the moment is related to this missing middle. And thank you to committee members for helping move the bill, and thank you for your commitment to keep on working on the bill. Senator McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding is that the Economic Development Committee is working on a bill that has elements of this bill we just passed without the forestry stuff, just the Act 250 stuff. This bill would make their bill moot, I believe. Have you been in discussions about what to do about that? Are they going to drop that and leave this bill to be the vehicle?
That's precisely part of the discussion. You know, we both went actually to give credit where credit is due. We looked at H511 and saw features in there that made sense to include. So we brought them in, we changed some things, but what basically subsequent to us doing that, the Economic Development Committee, I think, did the same thing. And so there's some overlap in the two bills. And one of the things to do is, practically speaking, to sort out that duplication and have what goes to the floor make sense, as opposed to duplicate in different bills. And then there could be strategic reasons as well in terms of what's in what bill. So I appreciate
Will you
the
as chair be asking that bill be referred to this committee? Because it has our jurisdiction in it. It has things over which we are the committee of jurisdiction.
Right. That's a good point. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but you're right. I mean, if they're addressing the very same things, like A&R floodplain rules, for instance, I believe are in there. PHPs are, to the surprise of many people, I think, they are statutorily entirely a creature of Act 250. They don't appear in a housing chapter. They appear within Act 250. So let me carry that forward. Thank you for that reminder.
A great point. Thank you, Senator McCormick.
Okay, so we are operating a little ahead of schedule, and so what I would ask Jude to reach out to Councillor O'Grady and see if he could come at 10:15 rather than 10:30.
I will, but I don't believe he's available yet.
Okay.
And also Kim Royer is going to join us at 10. I said 10:30. I'll see. Would you like her to try to come in early, or what's your pleasure?
I think 10:30 is fine, but since I asked Mr. O'Grady to draft an amendment.
Yep, that's on the website, 1.1.
Okay, and is actually, I think when I read that before going to sleep last night, I actually thought about it and followed up with him. There's been some fine tuning to the language
Oh,
this morning. So I think he's actually going to be bringing one that is 95% the same, but we'll have some new language. So that's why I wanted to start with a walkthrough of Mr. O'Grady of the amendment. So if you could check and see if he could come 15 minutes earlier, then we would start at 10:15 rather than 10:30 and give ourselves a little bigger window.
Okay, so should we tell the committee to come back at 10:15?
Yeah, so let's go break till 10:15, which is just over 15 minutes.